Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Virtual Storytime from your very own Newark Public Library. I am your host, Mix Allie. That is Mix, just like mixing bowl, not to be confused with Mr., Ms., Mrs., or Miss, because as you can see very well for yourselves, I am not a boy, nor am I a girl. I am a unicorn, and as always, we are recording this live story stream on land that rightfully belongs to the Lenape Indian tribe. If you are tuning in from anywhere in our fair city of Newark, New Jersey, it's likely that you are on land that rightfully belongs to the Lenape Indians as well. Thanks so much for joining me and another unicorn, my steadfast storytelling companion. Please put your hands together for the one, the only, Jonathan Van Unicorn! Hello! Welcome back. Good afternoon. Hope everyone's having a magnificent Taco Tuesday. Jonathan, did you have any tacos yet today? I did. I had a marvelous passion fruit taco. And you? I also did, Jonathan. I had a leftover Chinese food taco. Mix Ellie, I've got to say, that sounds weird and not very good. But it's Taco Tuesday, Jonathan. So what choice, really, did I have? Yes, I suppose you're right. You know, tradition and all that. Exactly. Tradition. Jonathan, what do we have lined up for everyone this afternoon? Well, Mix Allie, I understand we're going to read a folktale from a part of the world that we don't hear really enough folktales from, like we often do in our afternoon story times. That is right. We have a story from West Pakistan today, the area that we would now call West Pakistan. It is a Punjabi story, and I am really excited to share it with all of you. As Jonathan said, we always make a point to use our afternoon story time to tell some fairy tales or folk tales that we don't think you'll have heard before. Yes, because all of you have heard already so many times the story of Goldilocks and the Three Unicorns and Little Red Unicorn and I'm sure there's others. Beautiful Sleeping Unicorn. You know, Jonathan, I think people have heard stories like that. Well, of course they have. Those are very, very common fairy tales. Well, yes, so we make sure that we represent fairy tales and folk tales from all over the place. So we're going to read one of those, and then what, Jonathan? What happens after that? Then we're going to read more of our chapter book, Peter Pan. That's correct. And finally, Jonathan himself. Get ready, folks. This is the part you were waiting for. Yes, Jonathan will grace you with a unicorn dance party. That's right. I'll be rocking out too, but I'll be Jonathan's backup dancer, and you can all get on your feet and dance with him. Yes, and I know how glad you'll be to do so for the rest of your lives. You'll be like, I danced with a unicorn, and every day you can come back and dance with a unicorn again! That is totally true. Jonathan Van Unicorn and I are here every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and again at 2 p.m. And you, excuse me, and you can come and join us at any of those times for more stories, more dancing, more wonderful fun. We are also available on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. with virtual bedtime stories. And so we very much look forward to seeing all of you again soon. But first, we've got a show today to get to. That's right, Jonathan. Are you ready to get cozy and listen to our first story, or as the case may be, warm up for your marvelous dance performance coming up? Oh, yes, I'll do both of those things, Mix Allie. I'll do some very important dancer stretches while I am listening to this tale. All right. Glad that you've got so much to occupy yourself, Jonathan. All right. Well, as Jonathan and I were saying, we have a Punjab tale from West Pakistan to read today. This is called The Tiger and the Jackal. And it comes, this version of it that we're going to read today comes from The Maid of the North, which is a collection of feminist folk tales from around the world, and it is edited by Ethel Johnston Phelps, author of Tatterhood and Other Tales, another book that we've gotten a lot of our afternoon stories from, with illustrations by Lloyd Bloom. All right, so take a moment to get cozy, or to get dancy if you're like Jonathan. And here we go. The Tiger and the Jackal. There was once a farmer who went out with his oxen one morning to plow his field. He had just finished plowing one row when a tiger walked up to him and said, "Good morning, friend. How are you today?" "Good morning, sir. I am very well, sir," said the farmer. He was shaking with fear, but he felt it wise to be polite. Why was the farmer shaking with fear? Why was he scared of the tiger? Yeah, tigers sometimes eat people or other animals, so the farmer was probably worried that the tiger would hurt him. "I see you have 2 fine oxen," said the tiger, "and I am very hungry. Take off their yokes at once, please, for I intend to eat them." The farmer's courage returned now that he realized the tiger did not plan to eat him. Still, he did not want to give up his oxen for the tiger's meal. "My friend," said the farmer, "I need these oxen to plow my field. Surely a brave tiger like you can hunt for a good meal elsewhere." "Never mind that," said the tiger crossly. "Unyoke the oxen. I will be ready to eat them in a moment." And the tiger began to sharpen his teeth and claws on a stone. Sorry, y'all, my nose is so itchy this afternoon. "The oxen are very tough and will be hard to eat," pleaded the farmer. "My wife has a fat young milk cow at home. Spare my oxen, and I'll bring you the cow." The tiger agreed to this. He thought a tender young cow would make a much easier meal for him than tough oxen. So he said, "Very well, I will wait here in the field while you go home and get the cow. But bring the cow back as quickly as you can. I'm very hungry." The farmer took the oxen and went sadly homeward. "Why do you come home so early in the day?" called his wife. "It is not time for dinner yet." "A tiger came into the field and wanted to eat the oxen," said the farmer. "But I told him he could have our cow instead, and now I must bring him the cow." "What?" she cried. "You would save your old oxen and give him my beautiful cow? Where will our children get their milk? And how can I cook our food without butter?" "Well, we'll have no food at all unless I plow the field for my crops," said the farmer crossly. "Now untie the cow for me." "No, I will not give up my cow to the tiger," said his wife. "Surely you can think of a better way to get rid of the tiger." "No, I cannot," said her husband. "He is sitting in my field waiting for me, and he is very hungry." His wife thought for a minute. Then she said, "Go back to the tiger and tell him your wife is bringing the cow. Leave the rest to me." The farmer did not like to go back to the tiger without the cow, but he had no better idea, so he walked slowly back to the field. "Where is the cow?" roared the tiger angrily. "My wife will bring the cow very soon," said the farmer. At this, the tiger began to prowl about, growling and lashing his tail. The poor farmer's knees shook in terror. In the meantime, his wife dressed herself in her husband's best clothes. She tied a turban very high on her head to make her look very tall. She took a long knife from the kitchen and put it into her belt. Then she put a saddle on their pony and rode off to the field. As she drew near, she called out to her husband in a loud voice, "My good man, are there any tigers about? I've been hunting tiger for 2 days, and I'm hungry for a tiger." And she slashed the air above her head with the knife in a very threatening way. The farmer was so surprised he could not answer. "Aha!" cried his wife. "Is that a tiger I see hiding in the grass? I ate 3 tigers for breakfast the other day, and now I'm hungry for more." These words frightened the tiger. He turned tail and bolted into the forest. He ran so fast, he knocked over a jackal, who was sitting and waiting to feast on the ox bones when the tiger had finished his meal. "Why are you running away?" called the jackal. "Run! Run for your life!" cried the tiger. "There is a terribly fierce horseman back in the field. He thinks nothing of eating 3 tigers just for breakfast." The jackal laughed. That was no horseman. That was only the farmer's wife dressed up as a hunter. The tiger came back slowly. "Are you sure? Did the sun get in your eyes? Didn't you see her hair hanging down from her turban?" asked the jackal impatiently. The tiger was still doubtful. He looked like a hunter, and he swung that big knife as if he were going to kill me. "Don't give up your meal so easily," cried the brave jackal. "Go back to the field. I will follow and wait in the grass." The tiger did not like that idea at all. "I think you want me to be killed." "No, of course not," said the jackal. He was hungry and impatient. "If you like, we will go together, side by side." The tiger was still suspicious of the jackal's motives. Have you heard of a motive or character motivation before? Your motive or motivation is what you want. It is the thing that drives you to make decisions. So the tiger was worried that even though the jackal sounded like he was helping, his reason for helping might be something that would get the tiger into trouble. "We can tie our tails together," said the jackal. "Then I can't run away and leave you after we get there." The tiger thought this was a good idea, so they tied their tails together in a strong knot and set off together for the field. The farmer and his wife were still in the field, laughing over the trick she had played on the tiger. Suddenly, they saw the tiger and the jackal trotting toward them with their tails tied together. The farmer shouted to his wife, "Now the tiger has a jackal with him! Come away quick! Hurry!" The wife said no, she would not. She waited until the tiger and the jackal were near. Then she called out, "Dear Mr. Jackal, how kind of you to bring me such a nice fat tiger to eat. After I eat my fill, you may have the bones." When the tiger heard this, he became wild with terror. He forgot the jackal, and he forgot the knot in their tails. He leaped for the tall grass. Then off he ran, dragging the jackal behind him over stones and through thorn bushes. The jackal howled for him to stop, but the howls behind him only scared the tiger more, and he ran on until they both collapsed in a heap. As for the farmer, he was very proud of his wife's clever trick, for the tiger never came back to that field again. That is the end of the story of the tiger and the jackal. I hope that you all enjoyed it. All right, with that, it is time. It is time for us to return to our chapter book, Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. We're at a very exciting moment in this story, as those of you who have been following along will already know. I just feel like I'm gonna sneeze. It's very sneezy out today. At this point in the story, Wendy has decided that even though she's having a wonderful time in Neverland, she and John and Michael need to go home, because Wendy is really worried that their mother is going to be missing them and feeling really sad. Peter Pan and the Lost Boys are pretty angry with Wendy for deciding to leave, because they're really going to miss her, but Wendy is determined to go. And so this picks up with them all still figuring out what it's going to look like for Wendy and John and Michael to leave Neverland. "Wendy," said Peter, striding up and down, "I have asked the warriors of the island to guide you through the wood, as flying tires you out so." "Thank you, Peter." "Then," he continued in the short, sharp voice of one accustomed to being obeyed, "Tinker Bell will take you across the sea. Wake her up, Nibs." Nibs had to knock twice before he got an answer, though Tink had really been sitting up in bed listening for some time. "Who are you? How dare you? Go away!" she cried. "You are to get up, Tink," Nibs called, "and take Wendy on a journey." Of course, Tink had been delighted to hear that Wendy was leaving. Tinkerbell and Wendy do not like each other. But she was jolly well determined not to be her courier, and she said so in still more offensive language. Then she pretended to be asleep again. "She says she won't!" Nibs exclaimed, aghast at such insubordination. Whereupon Peter went sternly toward the young fairy's chamber. "Tink," he rapped out, "if you don't get up and dress at once, I will open your bedroom curtains, and then we shall all see you in your negligee." This made Tinkerbell leap to the floor. "Who said I wasn't getting up?" she cried. In the meantime, the boys were gazing very forlornly at Wendy, now equipped with John and Michael for the journey. By this time, they were dejected, not merely because they were about to lose her, but also because they felt that she was going off to something nice, to which they had not been invited. Novelty was beckoning to them as usual. So the Lost Boys were going to miss Wendy, and they were also really curious about what life was like back on the mainland, in the world that Wendy and John and Michael came from. Wendy melted. "Dear ones," she said, "if you will all come home with me, I feel almost sure I can get my father and mother to adopt you." The invitation was meant specially for Peter, but each of the boys was thinking exclusively of himself, and at once they jumped with joy. "But won't they think us rather a handful?" Nibs asked in the middle of his jump. "Oh, no," said Wendy, thinking it out. "It will only mean having a few beds in the drawing room. They can be hidden behind screens on first Thursdays." "Peter, can we go?" they cried imploringly. They took it for granted that if they went, he would go also. But really, they scarcely cared. "All right," said Peter, with a bitter smile, and immediately they rushed to get their things. "And now, Peter," Wendy said, thinking she had put everything right, "I am going to give you your medicine before you go." She loved to give them medicine, and undoubtedly gave them too much. Of course, it was only water, but it was out of a bottle, and she shook the bottle and counted the drops, which gave it a certain medicinal quality. On this occasion, however, she did not give Peter his draught, for as she had prepared it, she saw a look in his face that made her heart sink. "Get your things, Peter," she cried, shaking. "No," Peter answered, pretending indifference. That means he was pretending not to care, but he really did. "I am not going with you, Wendy." "Yes, Peter." No. To show her that her departure would leave him unmoved, he skipped up and down the room, playing gaily on his heartless pipes. She had to run about after him, though it was rather undignified. "To find your mother?" she coaxed. Now, if Peter had ever quite had a mother, he no longer missed her. He had thought all about mothers, and he remembered only the things he did not like about them. "No, no," he told Wendy decisively. "Perhaps she would say I was old, and I just want always to be a little boy and to have fun." "But Peter—" "No." And so the others had to be told. "Peter isn't coming." Peter not coming? They gazed blankly at him, their sticks over their backs and on each stick a bundle. Their first thought was that if Peter was not going, then he had probably changed his mind about letting them go. But he was far too proud for that. "If you find your mothers," he said darkly, "I hope you will like them." The awful cynicism of this made an uncomfortable impression, and most of them began to look rather doubtful. After all, their faces said, were they not noodles to want to leave Neverland? "Now then," cried Peter, "no fuss, no blubbering. Goodbye, Wendy." And he held out his hand cheerily, quite as if they really must go now because he had something important to do. She had to take his hand, as there was no indication that he would prefer a thimble. "You will remember about changing your flannels, Peter," she said, lingering over him. She was always so particular about their flannels. "Yes." "And you will take your medicine?" "Yes." That seemed to be everything, and an awkward pause followed. Peter, however, was not the kind that breaks down before other people. "Are you ready, Tinker Bell?" he called out. "Aye, aye." "Then lead the way." Tink darted up the nearest tree. But no one followed her. For it was at this moment that the pirates made a dreadful attack upon the warriors who were guarding the tree upstairs. Above, where all had been so still, the air was torn with shrieks and the clash of steel. Below, there was dead silence. Mouths opened and remained open. Wendy fell on her knees, but her arms were extended toward Peter. All arms were extended to him as if suddenly, blown in his direction, they were beseeching him mutely not to desert them. As for Peter, he seized his sword, the same he thought he had slain the pirate barbecue with, and the lust of battle was in his eye. And that is the end for today. There's so much going on. Wendy, John, and Michael are flying back to Mr. and Mrs. Darling. They are taking all the lost boys with them. Peter is the only one who is refusing to leave Neverland. And in the middle of all that, we have a pirate battle. I cannot wait to find out what happens next. And tomorrow morning we will. Please join me and Jonathan Van Unicorn every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and again at 2 p.m. On Mondays, we also have virtual bedtime stories at 7 p.m. And we can't wait to see you again. In the meantime, it's time to close out with a unicorn dance party. So get on your feet and get ready to join Jonathan in his big moment.
had no parents and was all alone, but she got by on her own and she liked it pretty well. 'Cause she never wore socks and she had a pet snake. She bought her a guitar and she ate a whole cake. And there wasn't anybody there to tell her what to do, so she did what she wanted to. Everybody knew the story of the princess who saved herself. The princess who saved herself. There was a dragon with a pointy tail. He was bigger than a whale and his breath was terrible. He scared the princess when he came around. Tried to burn the castle down, but she caught him by his tail. Then she tied him to a tree so the dragon couldn't fly. She told him he was mean and it made the dragon cry. When he finally apologized, she offered him some tea. He accepted it graciously. Now he visits every weekend with the princess who saved herself. The princess who saved herself. Was a witch who was an evil queen. She was wrinkled, old and green, and she hated everyone. She saw the princess in her silver gown, put the poison apple down, asked her where she bought her clothes. So they got the witch a dress, put some makeup on her face. They started up a band and the dragon played the bass. Every Saturday they play until their fingertips are sore, mostly math, rock, and cuddlecore. And they call themselves the kingdom of the princess who saved herself. The princess who saved herself. The princess who saved herself. The princess who saved herself.